Hello there, my name is Payal Naraine and welcome to this video series. यहाँ हम कवर कर रहे हैं पूनम दलाल दहिया की एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल इंडिया की थर्ड एडिशन, जो कि लेटेस्ट एडिशन है। इस किताब को हम थ्रूली रीड करेंगे और जहाँ ज़रूरत पड़ेगी वहाँ हम साथ ही साथ यूपीएससी एंड स्टेट सर्विसेज में आए हुए प्रीवियस ईयर के क्वेश्चंस भी डिस्कस करेंगे। एंड इस सीरीज़ में वीडियोस लगभग 30 to 35 मिनट्स के होंगे, बड़े इफेक्टिव होंगे और हम ऑलमोस्ट 40 to 45 लेक्चर्स में ये पूरी किताब कवर करेंगे। और अगर आपने ये सीरीज़ 3 to 4 टाइम्स देख ली तो बिल्कुल ये किताब आपके दिमाग में छप जाएगी एंड ट्रस्ट मी, आपकी एक्यूरेसी भी काफ़ी इंक्रीज़ हो जाएगी। साथ ही साथ आपका रिवीजन भी काफ़ी आसान हो जाएगा। सो अगर आपको रिवीजन के साथ साथ वैल्यू एडिशन भी करना है तो ये सीरीज़ पूरी फॉलो करें। आपको बस आपके पास ये किताब रखकर मुझे सुनना है एंड मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स मार्क करने हैं। So without any further delay, let's get started. हेलो देयर, वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल घटना सूत्रा। यहाँ हम कवर कर रहे हैं पूनम दलाल दहिया की एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल इंडिया थर्ड एडिशन, जो कि लेटेस्ट एडिशन है। और हमने लास्ट वीडियो में कवर कर लिया था कौटिल्या's अर्थशास्त्र। नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट विथ मेगास्थनीज इंडिका। एंड बिफोर वी मूव अहेड, आप प्लीज़ अपने बुक में मार्क कर लीजिएगा, लाइक डबल स्टार मार्केट, क्योंकि इसके ऊपर सवाल काफ़ी सारी स्टेट सर्विसेज में पूछे गए थे, जैसे कि BPSC, UPPCS, MPPCS एंड UPRO/ARO में मल्टीपल ईयर्स में। सो मार्क दिस एज एन एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक, राइट? सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। Megasthenes Indica. Indica is an account left by Greek ambassador Megasthenes, sent by Seleucus Nicator to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, who lived in the Mauryan capital of Patliputra. This book has not survived, but its fragments are preserved in later Greek and Latin works of Diodorus, historian who describes Alexander's Indian campaign and provides a general description of India. Strabo, geographer, whose books deals with geography of India and Persia. Pliny, Roman scholar who cites Megasthenes' observation, and Arene, statesman and soldier who provide us with an account of Alexander's campaign and also of Admiral Nerochus' voyage back to Babylon. Indica describes the subcontinent in terms of its size and shape. India is a quadrilateral shaped country bound by ocean on the southern and the eastern side. Soil, climate, rivers, plants, animals contains lengthy description of elephants, horses and monkey, as it appears that Greeks were specially captivated by Indian animals, produce administration, society, legends and folklore. The Greek referred to India's worship of Lord Krishna and addressed him as Dionysus and Hercules or Hercules. They portrayed India as honest, since theft was rare and having a great character and moral values. Megasthenes was also greatly impressed by the contentment and prosperity of the Indian people. Famine has never visited India, and that there has never been a general scarcity in the supply of nourishing food, and even in the times of war, the Indians would never ravage the cultivated soil as was done by other nations, but would fight their battles away from the agricultural field, allowing the tillers of the soil to carry on cultivation even when battles were raging. The major fault of Megasthenes' work were mistakes in details. The uncritical acceptance of Indian folklore and tendency to idolize Indian culture by the standard of Greek philosophy. For instance, Megasthenes, influenced by Herodotus' classification of the Egyptian society into 7 classes based on the professional criteria, mentioned existence of 7 castes in India too, that is, philosophers held a high estate and consisting of brahmanas and shamanas, farmers, herdsmen and hunters, artisans and traders, soldiers, overseers, and the king's counselors, which obviously was a division with reference to the professional pursuit of different sections of the society, and was rather contrary to the traditional four-fold division of the caste system then prevalent. However, Megasthenes did identify 2 of the most important aspects of the Indian caste system, that is endogamy and hereditary occupation. Strabo also wrongly stated that Indians were ignorant of writing and smelting and never drank wine except at sacrifice. Even with these faults, Megasthenes Indica, along with Kautilya's Arthashastra, provide valuable insights on one of the most powerful and prominent dynasties of that time, the Mauryan dynasty. मौर्यन डायनेस्टी. अब आप यहाँ पे ध्यान दीजिएगा कि मौर्यन डायनेस्टी के ऊपर भी काफ़ी स्टेट सर्विसेज में सवाल पूछे गए थे इन मल्टीपल ईयर्स, लाइक यूपी की एग्जामिनेशन में, बीपीएससी एंड उत्तराखंड पीसीएस में भी, राइट. सो स्टार मार्क दिस, लाइक डबल स्टार मार्क दिस इन योर बुक्स टू. So this makes this topic very important, right? So let's start. The Mauryan dynasty. The founder of the Mauryan dynasty, Chandragupta Maurya, 324 to 321 slash to 297 BCE, inherited a large army of the Nandas, which he used to conquer almost whole of north, the northwest, and a large part of the peninsular India. There is a lot of ambiguity about the origins and caste of Maurya family. They vary from text to text. The Buddhist texts such as the Diganikya, Mahavamsa, and Divyavadana speaks of the Mauryan as belonging to a branch of Kshatriya Mauryan clan associated with the Shakyas, probably to give the family a higher status, but Brahminical sources considered them as Shudras and heretics, presumably because each king was strong patron to heterodox sect. The family has also been believed to be associated with Nandas, as according to the Vishnu Purana, Chandragupta was the eldest son of Maurya, son of the Nanda king Sarvathasiddhi by Maru, a daughter of a hunter. Chandragupta Maurya, 324/321 to 297 BCE. Mauryan dynasty founded by Chandragupta Maurya with the help of his mentor Chanakya/Kautilya. Chandragupta, in all likelihood, first established himself in Punjab and then moved eastward until he gained control over the Magadh region. According to traditional belief, Chandragupta adopted the strategy on the basis of moral drawn from an instance where he witnessed a woman scolding her child for eating from the center of a dish because it is bound to be hotter than the sides. Called Sandra Cotis by the Greek scholar identified by William Jones, Greek sources even suggested a meeting between Chandragupta and Alexander, who invaded northwest India during 327 to 326 BCE. They also account for the conflict between Chandragupta Maurya and Seleucus Nikita, who was one of the generals of Alexander and after his death had succeeded in gaining control over most of the eastern Asiatic provinces. Chandragupta defeated him around 301 BCE. Seleucus was compelled to yield Archosia, Khandar area of southeast Afghanistan, and Gedrosia, South Balochistan, and Parapomsidai area between Afghanistan and Indian subcontinent, such as Kabul, Herat, Gandhar, to him in return for 500 elephants. Seleucus sent an ambassador to the Mauryan court, Megasthenes, who wrote the Indica. He was the chief architect of Mauryan Empire and built a vast empire which included Bihar, Nepal, western and northwestern India, and the Deccan. According to Jain text and tradition, Chandragupta adopted Jainism and went to the hill of Swarna Belagola near Mysore with Bhadrabhau and committed Salekhan, dead by slow starvation. Bindusar, 297 to 273 BCE. Greek writers address him as Amitrochates, destroyer of foes, while the Mahabhyasa refers to him as Amitraghat, killers of enemy. It is rather strange that Buddhist sources are silent on Bindusar. However, stories from the Ajavika sect do mention of a fortune teller who prophesied to Bindusar about his son Ashoka's future greatness. Conquer the land between the two seas, the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. The Tibetan monk Taranath, who wrote a 7th century history of Indian Buddhism, states that one of the Bindusar's great lords, Chanakya, destroyed the nobles and the king of 16 towns and made him masters of all the territory between the eastern and the western sea. Greek source also mentioned of his diplomatic relation with the western king. According to Strabo, Antiochus, Syrian king, sent Demetrius as an ambassador to Bindusar's court. Similarly, Similarly, Pliny mentioned that the king Ptolemies to Philadelphus of Egypt sent Dionysius as an ambassador to India. In Divyavadana, probably during his reign, there is a mention of his son Ashoka, who quelled a rebellion against wicked ministers of Takshila. Believed to have joined Ajivika sect, under his rule, almost the entire subcontinent as far as Karnataka was under Mauryan suzerainty. Ashoka. So, star mark this. अशोका's टॉपिक इज़ एक्सट्रीमली इम्पॉर्टेंट. इसमें UPPCS में 1993 में सवाल पूछे गए थे, राइट? So make sure you read about Ashoka and that too in great detail and try to remember and revise it as much as possible. Ashoka. 268 to 232 BCE. After Bindusar's death in 273 BCE, there was a 4-year succession conflict. According to Divyavadana, Bindusar wanted his son Susima to succeed him, and Ashoka was the choice of Bindusar's minister. Later, with the help of ministers named Radhagupta, after killing 99 brothers, Ashoka finally acquired the Magadha throne, and thus, after 4 years, came his formal consecration. He was appointed the viceroy of Takshila and Ujjain. Both cities handled commercial activities during the reign of Bindusar. Regarded as one of the greatest king of all time, and probably was the first ruler to maintain direct contact with the people through his inscription. The various names of the emperor include Buddha Shakya and Ashoka in Musky Edict, Dharmashoka, Sarnath inscription, Devana Piya meaning beloved to the god, and Piyadasi meaning pleasing appearance, given in Sri Lankan Buddhist chronicle Deepavamsa and Mahavamsa. According to the Buddhist text, Ashokavadana, Ashoka's mother, was a daughter of Brahmin of Champa named Subhadrangi. According to belief, Ashoka got his name literally meaning without sorrow from the fact that his birth resulted in the reunion of his mother and father, who were otherwise separated due to the palace intrigue. It is from her exclamation, "I am now without sorrow," that the child Ashoka got his name. Buddhist texts such as Deepavamsa and Mahavamsa provided a detailed account of his queen. According to legend, Ashoka had a love marriage with his wife Mahadevi, daughter of a merchant of Vidisha, who later became the mother of Mahinda, and Sanghamitta, the celebrated child of Ashoka who helped in the propagation of Buddhist religion. These two texts also mention the queen Asandimitta, Padmavati, and Tisarathi, who tried to get a Bodhi tree cut, and Kaurvaki, only queen to be mentioned in the Queen's Edict, Allahabad Kosam Pillars Edict, where she is described as a mother of Prince Tivara and the only son of Ashoka to be mentioned by the name in inscription. His empire covered the whole territory from Hindu Kush to Bengal and extended over Afghanistan, Balochistan, and the whole of India, including Kashmir and the valley of Nepal, the first empire to do so, with the exception of a small area in far south, which according to the Rock Edict 13 were inhabited by Cholas and Pandyas, and according to Rock Edict 2 by the Kerala Putras and Satya Putras. Here, his Hellenistic contemporaries were Antiochus II of Syria, Ptolemy II of Egypt, Antigonus of Macedonia, Magus of Cyrenaica, Libya, and Alexander of Epirus. As all of them are mentioned in the Edict of Ashoka, Ashoka exchanged missions, both diplomatic and others, with them. The conquest by Dharma has been won here, on the borders, and even 600 yojnas, 5,400 to 9,600 kilometers away, where the Greek king Antiochus rules. Beyond there were the four kings named Ptolemy, Antigonus, Magus, and Alexander's rule. Likewise, in the south, among the Cholas, the Pandyas, and as far as Tamraparini, Sri Lanka, says the 13th Rock Edict, was the great proponent of Buddhism. According to tradition, as mentioned in the Mahavamsa and Deepavamsa, he was converted to Buddhism by his nephew Nigrodha, who had become a monk at the tender age of 7. According to Divyavandana, Samudra, a merchant turned monk, converted him. Buddhism for the first time went outside India during his reign. He sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sangamitra to Ceylon, Sri Lanka, appointed Dharma Mahatmas to propagate Dharma among various social groups including women in the 14th year of his reign, organized the Third Buddhist Council at Patliputra in the 18th year of his reign, after which he sent Buddhist missionaries to Ceylon and Swarnabhumi. In the course of his second Dharma Yatra tour in the 21st year of his reign, he visited Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha, banned animal sacrifices, regulated the slaughter of animals for food, and established dharmashalas, hospitals, and sarais throughout his kingdom. Brihadrata. The Mauryan Empire declined rapidly after Ashok, and the later king had a very short reign. The empire became weak and fragmented, and the Mauryan dynasty came to an end with the last king, Brihadrata, was killed by his military commander Pushyamitra Shunga in 187 BCE. Shunga dynasty. 187 BCE. Ashoka's inscription and Ashoka's Dhamma. So star mark this. इसके ऊपर UPPCS में 2009 में सवाल पूछा गया था, right? So let's start. Ashokan inscription and Ashoka's Dhamma. The history of Ashoka is reconstructed on the basis of his inscription. These inscription throws light not only on the reign of Ashoka but also reveals his external and domestic policies, his views about Dhamma, the extent of his empire as statement of his personal concerns. They are remarkable documents vividly describing the ambience of his time. There are total 33 inscriptions and are primarily classified into major rock edicts, minor rock edicts, separate rock edicts, major pillar edicts, and minor pillar edicts. Here you can see the map which shows the edicts of Ashoka's empire. The edicts of the earlier half of his reign were inscribed on conveniently located rock surfaces and were widely distributed throughout the empire, especially the area of public settlements, where people can easily read these edicts and are thus referred to as minor and major rock edicts. On the other hand, pillar edicts were mostly inscribed in the later part of his reign, and instead of rocks were on well-polished sandstone monolithic pillars, quarried from the site of Chunar near Varanasi, each surmounted with a finely sculpted animal capital, involving great technological expertise in cutting and engraving, and were largely confined to the Ganges plains since they were transported by river. In his inscription, Brahmi, Kharoshti, Prakrit, Aramaic, Greek language, deciphered by James Prinsep in 1837 CE, have been used. There is interestingly no reference to the teaching of the Buddha in the Greek and Armenic version, mostly found around the northwestern borders such as Serekun Greek Aramaic inscription. Equally fascinated in the fact that some concepts in these edicts are drawn from the philosophical discussion of that language. For instance, the edict in Aramaic are better understood if read in the context of some Zoroastrian concept. Also, it is true that Ashoka's inscription do not contain certain key ideas associated with Buddha's teaching, such as the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, and the goal of Nibbana. Nevertheless, there is a definite Buddhist core ideology in his Dhamma-focused inscription. Most of the Ashoka's inscription are about Dhamma, Prakrit, form of Dharma, literally meaning the universal law or righteousness or social and religious order. And it was clearly inspired by the Buddhist Upasaka Dhamma, that is the Buddha's teaching for the laity. But it was not a mirror image of it. Ashoka's Dhamma was a set of teaching that could not be identified with just narrow sectarian belief. Rather, it encompasses a social and intellectual code of ethics influencing many aspects of social life, and even a lot more than that. It emphasizes on non-violence, mutual respect, and understanding between people of different sects and beliefs. Ashoka did not see Dhamma as a petite resulting from good deeds that were inspired from formal religious belief, but as a conformity of social ethic. His Dhamma was aimed at creating an attitude of mind having primacy of ethical behavior and recognition of the dignity of human life. He repeatedly asked the people to extend respect, consideration, compassion, and tolerance towards slaves and servants, respect for teachers, obedience to parents, generosity towards friends and relatives, regard and donation of brahmanas and shamanas, a concern for all living beings, and abstention from destroying life. His policy of Dhamma included the state's concern for the welfare of its people. It was a code of conduct or ideal social behavior common to all religions of the world, which he appealed to his subjects to follow. A closer look at Ashoka's edict illustrates that the basic attribute of Dhamma includes compassion, daya, charity, dana, truthfulness, purity, and gentleness. 14 major rock edicts and their corresponding messages. सो आप यहाँ पे भी स्टार मार्क कर लीजिएगा क्योंकि रॉक एडिक्ट के ऊपर एग्जामिनेशन में सवाल पूछा गया था, जैसे कि UPPCS में 2016 में पूछा गया है एंड RSRTS में 2013 में पूछा गया था. सो it makes this topic important. So make sure you remember the rock edict and the message given on it. Right? So let's start. Excuse me. 14 major rock edict and their corresponding messages. Rock edict. Corresponding message. First edict. Declare prohibition of animal sacrifice. Second edict. Medical treatment of human and animals. Planting beneficial medicinal herbs and roots, fruits, and the digging of wells. Third edict mentions Pradeshikas, Rajukas, and Yuktas and their need for going on tours of inscription every 5 years as a part of their other duties, preaching Dhamma and also adopting liberal attitude toward Brahmanas and Shamanas. Fourth edict, Behari Ghosha, war drum, replaced by Dhamma Ghosha, and King Ashoka attached greatest value to this duty. Fifth edict, appointment of Dhamma Mahatma, a special cadre of officials entrusted to spread Dhamma within the kingdom. Sixth edict, Mantri Parishad and officers like Pulisani and Pativedakas, reporters. Seventh edict, religious tolerance amongst all sects and welfare measures for public, not only in his own kingdom but also in the neighbouring kingdom of Cholas, Pandyas, and that of Anituchis in the northwest. Eighth edict, royal pleasure tours, Vihara Yatra, replaced by Dhamma tours, Dhamma Yatras. Ashoka himself went to Sambodhi at Bodh Gaya. Ninth edict, criticism of the uselessness of various ceremonies, instead lays stress on Dhamma and moral conduct. 10th edict, kings desire no more fame or glory. 11th edict, announced that the gift of Dhamma, being the best of all gifts, and the policy of Dhamma is the best policy to follow. Dhamma includes giving respect to elders and good behavior towards slave. 12th edict, mention of Ithijika Mahamatas in charge of women welfare, and appeals for not only tolerance among sect but also for people to honor and understand the dhammas of others. 13th edict, the Kalinga War, 261 BCE, occurred in the 9th year after Ashoka's coronation, changed his attitude, and Ashoka, who was a worshipper of Shiva, turned towards Buddhism. Digvijaya was replaced by Dhamma Vijaya. The sword was replaced by Dhamma, and the war drum Behari Ghosha became Law Dhamma Ghosha. His Dhamma contained the essence, good qualities of all religion of the world. The king considered victory by Dhamma to be the foremost victory. Mention of victory by Dhamma on his Hellenistic neighbors like Antichus and others like the Cholas and Pandyas. But in this rock edict itself, he sternly warns the forest tribes against any intransitions. The information provided by the 13th edict also helped in understanding the territorial extent of the Mauryan Empire, and also contains reference to its neighbors, Cholas, northern Tamil Nadu, Cheras, Kerala, Pandyas, southern Tamil Nadu. 14th edict, purpose of the rock edict. The motifs associated with the Ashokan pillar have a rich and varied symbolism. in resonance with many prevailing Indian religious tradition. For instance, the most found motifs were of lotus, symbolizing purity and fecundity in Indian tradition, lion in a solar symbol and represents the Buddha too, as he is referred to as Sakya Simha, lion among the Sakyas. Bull, symbol of fertility, elephant, relevant in Buddhism as according to Buddhist tradition, Buddha entered his mother womb in the form of a white elephant. Spoked wheel, represented Dhamma Chakra, that is, the wheel of Dhamma and also associated with sovereignty, and horse, symbolized departure of Siddhartha from his home. Some of the important pillar edicts features the following. First pillar edict, social code. Second pillar edict describes Dhamma as consisting of least amount of sin, performing virtuous deeds, having compassion, purity and truthfulness. Third pillar edict, soul and sin. Fourth pillar edict, Rajukas. Fifth pillar edict, popularly known as the Delhi Topra pillar edict. It features prohibitions regarding animal killing. Sixth pillar, welfare of people. Seventh pillar edict, Dhamma Mahamattas. Now we are going to talk about other relevant inscription and important edict. अब mark this extremely important, like 3-star mark this, है ना, because ये UPSC में पूछा गया था in 1997, UPPCS में पूछा गया था in multiple years, BPSC में पूछा गया था, झारखंड PCS में पूछा गया था and UP UDA/LDA की एग्जामिनेशन में भी पूछा गया था. So this make this topic extremely important. तो आप इसे बिल्कुल ध्यान से सुनिए and mark this in your books too, right? So let's start. Edict inscription and the remarks. Allahabad, Kosam/Queen's Edict, Kosambi or Saschim Edict. Ashoka warns member of the Sangha against causing division in rank. Samudragupta's inscription is on this edict itself. Jahangir was probably responsible for its removal to the fort of Allahabad. Girnar rock inscription of Rudraman, Kaitwar, mentions the Sudarshan Lake constructed by Pushyagupta, a Rashtriya means provincial government of Saurashtra during Chandragupta Maurya's reign. Khandar inscription, bilingual Greek-Armenic inscription. Nigali Sagar inscription, Nepal, to record the first enlargement of stupa 14 years after his consecration and later Ashoka's visit to the site 20 years after his consecration. Rumindei inscription, Nepal, to commemorate the birthplace of Buddha. Ashoka visited Lumbini, worshipped here and gave tax concession to the villagers. It records that the village of Lumbini was exempted from Bali and was to pay only 1/8 of Bhaga. Sanati inscription, Karnataka, site of all 14 major edicts as well as 2 separate Kalinga edicts. Kalinga edict, Bhauli and Jogada, mentions all men are my children. Sogaru copperplate inscription and Mahasthana inscription of Chandragupta Maurya mention relief measures adopted during famine in Magadha. Minor Rock Edict 1 indicates that Ashoka turned towards Buddhism gradually, nearly after 2.5 years in power and not suddenly. Minor Rock Edict 3 Ashoka's greet the Sangha profession his deep faith in the Buddhas, Dhamma and Sangha and recommends 6 Buddhist texts for monks, nuns and the general laity. Inscription of Shahbaz Gri and Mansera, written in Kharoshti script. Brahmagiri Minor Rock Edict 1 and 2 talks about local administration. Ashoka's legacy. Ashoka was not only a great missionary ruler in the history of ancient India but of the world too. He had a great and path-breaking innovative achievement to his credit, such as political unification of the country. He not only added Kalinga to Mauryan dynasty but also bound the whole country together by one Dhamma, one language and practically one script of Brahmi, which is used in most of his inscription. Spread of tolerance and respect. He adopted and preached tolerance in not only the religious sphere, did not try to force his Buddhist faith on his subject and made gifts to non-Buddhist sects as well. such as donating Bara caves to Ajivika's ascetics. But in the case of scripts other than Brahmi, he respected other scripts like Kharosthi, Armenic, and Greek, and language Greek, Prakrit, and Sanskrit too. Promotion of cultural contact. He not only brought innovative administrative changes but also promoted cultural contact between Indian states and between India and the other worlds too. It would not be an exaggeration if Ashoka is considered the first global cultural ambassador of India. Policy of peace and non aggregation. Ashoka is famous in history for his policy of peace and non conquest and non aggression. It is, in this sense, he was much ahead of his time and generation. So that's all for the day. In the next lecture, we'll start with Mauryan administration. See you next time.